Welcome to the Intercut Podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he prefers when we count backwards, it's Arturo Zurita!
How you guys doing today? It's the most difficult time of the year, but also the best time of the year. It's time to make best lists and hear people complain about best lists. Bringing it down to the top 10 is always the most difficult thing to do, but I'm happy to do it here with Zach and Amanda the Jedi, who joined us for the halfway one.
Hell yeah. Excited to be here to close it out.
Yeah, we've got the return of Amanda the Jedi.
I like that return of the Jedi.
That's a good one. That's good. That's good.
For our re-up of the best movies of the year list. You may have seen her on our best movies of the year so far list. So it'll be interesting to see which ones of those films we talked about back in July managed to survive all the way to 2020.
Not many.
Because we are now officially not in 2019, but
That's
we
scary.
are taking a second to still talk about what impressed us last year. As we did with our best of the TV list, I thought we should talk a little bit about the films that we missed, that we feel bad about, as well as some of our honorable mentions. But, before the comments jump all over us for not including X movie or not including Y movie, let's just get it out there. I know for me, I haven't seen Diane, which has been picking up a couple Critics Awards. Just Mercy, I missed at the Toronto Film Festival. Art, I know this was one of your recommendations out of TIFF, but A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, I never caught
I haven't
it.
caught it yet. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, as well as Her Smell, one of my girlfriend's favorites of the year. Under the Silver Lake, I know
You didn't
both of
catch
you were a
that?
fan
Yeah, I
of.
like
I
that.
know. High Life, Transit, Ashes of the Purest White.
Ooh.
Gully Boy, which we were recommended a lot in the comments, which was India's submission to the Academy
Right.
Awards. And I've been seeing An Elephant Sitting Still, the nearly 4-hour film from the late Chinese filmmaker Hu Bo, showing up on some lists, but did not see that one either. I don't know if there's some movies that you guys were hoping to catch and didn't quite make it in time.
Didn't catch 1917 because it was supposed to come out on Christmas, and then it's actually not releasing in Canada till the 10th of January.
10th of January?
So,
Yeah, a victim of our borders, I believe.
so
Star
not
Wars.
catching that in 2019, sadly. There's some stuff that I need to watch, either just because, like, for example, Climax. You hated it. Karsten loved it. So I just need to watch it.
Yeah, see where you fall
I
in
think I'm
between.
going to hate it based on the description. I think I'm going to hate it. But so there's like a couple that I haven't caught, but I'm pretty happy with where I've ended up at the end of
You
the
caught
year.
Cats, though.
Art,
so.
I think
Cats?
you're what?
Cats, of course, yeah.
Yes, Cats is another one that I didn't catch up with. I believe I'm going to be okay on that front.
Blessed man.
Art, I think you watch more movies than both me and Amanda. So are there movies that you feel bad for not having watched before this list?
Only one, Zach, and you know the story behind that one. There's only 2 movies that I am missing. Well, technically 3. It goes High Life.
Oh, you haven't seen High Life?
I have not seen High Life. I have not seen Just Mercy yet, because again,
You haven't?
I have not seen Just Mercy. I sadly
I caught
missing
it
the
at
other
TIFF.
2.
I did catch that at TIFF.
And I know I had gotten your recommendations, and I heard other people's about it. And then the last one being Clemency. So literally, those are my
Right.
last 3. It's High
I
Life.
saw both of those, yeah.
So
I saw all
as
of
you
those.
know, Clemency has been the one I feel bad at, kind of, though. I mean, they've also kind of just botched.
Clemency was like, it was like an 8:30 showing towards the end of Sundance, and I got up, and then you guys were like, I can't do it.
I can't do it.
So like I trek up to the Egyptian by myself and watch it, and it was really good. And then I remember I sent you guys furious messages being like, yo, the tickets for TIFF went up like 4 hours early. Like, get in here. And then by the time you guys woke up, you're like, they closed it out, and the only thing we can get tickets for is Clemency. We've been on the phone with the people for like 3 hours now trying to fix it. And then by the end of it, you didn't have any tickets for Clemency.
I didn't have anything. It was funny because it even won Sundance. Blizzard came.
Right.
We chose our livelihood over dying in the blizzard to go see it. At TIFF, missed it. At Chicago, missed it. And I really hope, I've heard good things, but we'll see. I hope it doesn't miss the award circuit that it decided to release the movie all the way. Every Sundance movie practically out. Big Time Adolescence might come out before Clemency comes out.
At this point.
But yeah, those 3 would have been the only ones. So I'm pretty confident in my list for the most part. And with those being the final ones, I was very proud of the amount of foreign films we were able to catch through Toronto. And Chicago Fest especially, we caught a couple of ones there, but those will make my honorable mentions. So.
Yeah.
If you look at the Academy Awards shortlist for Best Foreign Film nominees as well as Best Documentary nominees, I'd say about 50% have been discussed on Intercut sometime in the past year. So
Zach was telling me he was looking at the shortlist. He's like, I just want to let you know that the what do we call it? Interviewers.
The intercuties are in good hands.
Like, yo, we have recommended and at least talked about every single one of these. I'm really proud of that. Through all of the big movies that we talk about, I think all the festival coverage, it's one of the things where I'm the proudest of, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking for the both of us. Three of us, really.
So it's always exciting to share some of our discoveries with the audience. Some of them are ending up in my honorable mentions because there's only so much you can pack into a top 10 list. For me, I got a bunch of documentaries in my honorable mentions.
Talk about it.
This was an unbelievable year for documentaries, and there's still some that I've been trying to catch up on, like The Biggest Little Farm.
Yeah.
And I know one thing Art liked a lot, Apollo 11. But for me, the Amazing Jonathan documentary did not make my top 10.
Yeah, it didn't make my top 10, but it's still
y'all
still up there on my list.
Hey, y'all mentioning it in the top 10 video, so I don't mind.
Yeah, it's great. I loved it.
American Factory didn't make my top 10.
Any docs make the top 10?
Yes, I have two in there. We'll get to them.
I won't spoil. I know.
I know one. I'm pretty sure.
Knock Down the House, another good one, didn't make my top 10. Fire, my preferred choice among the Fire Festival documentaries, the Netflix one. For Sama, one of the Oscar shortlisted documentaries, very good, available on YouTube now.
Yeah.
Because it's a PBS one.
Oh, right.
And One Child Nation, the Sundance winner that got picked up by Amazon. Surprisingly affecting and emotional and also just very informative. A really good documentary.
Yeah, it was.
Very good.
In my honorable mentions, I also got Luce. I got The Irishman. I got Dolomite Is My Name. I got Wild Rose. I got Climax. I got The Lighthouse. I got Ford v Ferrari, Midsommar, and Little Women.
Nice.
Wow.
Honorable mentions, guys? Anything you need to mention?
Too many.
My honorable mentions, I got Little Women in mind for sure. Irishman as well. I think Big Time Adolescence actually got kicked down into honorable mentions. To the Stars.
And it got kicked down to 2020, I think.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, exactly. So it barely counts. The Farewell, which was really hard to because there's 4 movies that they keep rotating in and out. First Love, which was the Takashi Miike movie, which was just super fun.
I got that one too.
Yeah, it was so fun. It was so fun. And yeah, I think that'll probably Under the Silver Lake. I think that'll probably do it for my my honorable mentions. But
Under the Silver Lake does not make the top 10.
No, well, I saw it last year, so I feel like I'm cheating if I put it in my top 10
Gotcha.
this year. Yeah.
Art, how about you? What are your honorable mentions?
I have a couple. I'll start with the action blockbusters of this year. Like she had said, First Love, Endgame, John Wick 3. I thought those were really great. In terms of animation, we had the closing of How to Train Your Dragon 3, dude. A lot of people were very vocal about that. They thought it's a good trilogy. Like they ended the trilogy very well. On top of that, a lot of people didn't like the second part. I wouldn't say they didn't like because no one hated the second part of the Lego movie. But we're not talking about it anymore.
No.
Toy Story 4, but I would say one of my favorite animations of the year, if I'm not including some of the shorts, which are usually difficult for people to see with distribution, I Lost My Body. No distribution problem there. It's on Netflix. Cannes, TIFF, I think even Chicago played it, festivals. I Lost My Body. It's on Netflix. Really great documentary. Some of the other ones that I would want to mention are the dramas. No, this is difficult. Because this should really be a top 20, but...
Yeah.
It really should.
I have Peanut Butter Falcon, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Little Women.
Yep.
Last Black Man in San Francisco and Monos, which I still stand are 2 of the most beautiful. They didn't make it. I don't know what to do. Rocket Man and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. They did not make my top 10.
Okay.
That hurts to say. But when the honorable mentions is a stronger top 10 list than some of the other years.
Yeah, seriously, this was too good of a year. It was such a good year.
And I
honestly think by top 25 could all easily rotate into a top 10. It's so easy.
That's why I said let me explain what I got to do categories.
I don't blame you.
I got to cheat and make 10 top 10 lists within there. Yeah. So, but I'm excited. I'm excited to break down our our personal favorites and
Nice.
and where we put them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard to whittle the list down to just 10 movies. We've done our best. I guess we should go ahead and kick this off. For me, at my number 10 slot is a movie that we've talked about a lot. It's a movie that we saw back at Sundance. It's Brittany Runs a Marathon.
Wow.
I got a chance to revisit it, and although I don't necessarily think it's quite as funny on the rewatch, I as a sort of character study and just a time spent with a really charming presence in the Jillian Bell character and Jillian Bell's performance, it's a really pleasant hang that does actually take time to think about what kind of person she is in the way that I think a lot of comedies don't delve into character. I'm somebody who's really into character a lot. And then I got to just admit that I was a blubbering mess at the end. That ending is
It's
just
good.
so killer.
Ending, yeah.
And at a certain point, I feel like you have to give it to a movie when it is so deftly expert at manipulating your emotions like that.
I agree.
So, it because it made me feel so much more than once. I don't think this top 10 list would be appropriate without it.
No, I agree with that. I think that that's something that a lot of people can kind of forget when you're talking about top 10 lists, because like sometimes you'd be like, well, yeah, this was probably a better movie, and I understand like how beautiful this was, but like this movie made me feel this, and that's why I have it higher for me. But,
Exactly.
Perfect.
And for me, I feel like Ford v Ferrari, Midsommar, Little Women, those movies were all kind of like slotting in and getting edged out just again and again. I just didn't feel right putting them ultimately over Brittany Runs a Marathon.
And it's available on Amazon Prime, and I second the ending. The ending got me too. I haven't been able to see it a second time, but that was also going to be my honorable mention for my top 10 as well.
Nice.
Cool. All right, so that's my number 10. Amanda, you want to go next? What's your number 10?
Sure. I actually just swapped one around. So it was Avengers, but like I feel like everybody said all there is to say about Avengers. I'm like, I love comic book movies. I'm a huge fan of what they've done with the MCU. And it was just they stuck the landing. I think Infinity War is a better movie, but Avengers actually managed to do what like so many franchises this year have either fumbled or completely failed in doing, and they stuck the landing.
What are you talking about?
Star Wars fumbled is what I call, and I call Game of Thrones a complete failure. So like,
You appreciate it when a big company, when a franchise has,
Yeah, like it wasn't perfect, but it came together in a satisfying way. It made me feel things. I'm happy
They
with
landed the plane.
They landed the plane. But I just swapped it out, so I think my new top 10 is now Booksmart, which it was just so delightful. It's just such a delightful movie. It's like something that I feel like I can watch with my friends and have a great time watching. And there's so many, we talked about this in the Midway one, I'm pretty sure. There's just so many moments that I'm like, that is something that I've never seen in a movie before, and it's so true, and it's so accurate, and I'm not like either of those characters, but they've gone through situations that I like 100% resonate and relate to. Like you were saying that you're like, you didn't understand why the panda thing was funny, and it's like, and it's like Alina had to explain it to you.
I was like, what's going on with this panda here?
Yeah,
Is this
exactly.
a limited edition Beanie Baby?
Exactly, and it's just funny, and for being a first-time directorial debut
of Olivia Wilde.
Yeah, from Olivia Wilde, it was just so well handled, and hearing the cast talk about how great it was working with her and how great she was on set, and
Cool.
just how well she kept it together, and just everything about it just makes me really happy. So I'm moving that to my number 10.
Something that I think separates the like just good teen comedies from the really great and memorable teen comedies is not just those primary characters, but the depth of the characters in the movie. You look at a movie like Superbad, and there's all these one-scene characters who are memorable, or who are so memorable. And I think Booksmart nails that the same way, where
I agree.
you follow them along their night, and you end up bumping into all these really fun, interesting people. A lot of fun actors show up too.
Yeah.
So
Super
definitely.
Fun. And,
one of the more enjoyable watches of the year, I would say.
Yeah, and I also love, just really quickly, I love that they have a movie that has two female characters that are best friends, and the conflict isn't the fact that they're fighting over a guy.
Yes.
Like that always seems to be the default that they do with movies involving like strong relationships between women. It always has to be about a guy. This doesn't, and it isn't, and it never would be. And I love that.
Yeah, and also I'm sure there's that aspect to it that Beanie plays a straight character and Caitlin plays a gay character, and I feel like that's something we don't normally see as much either. Where there's a lot of straight girls who are together in a movie, or a bunch of lesbians who are together in a movie.
Yeah.
So that's another cool aspect to it
I
too. Is the
totally
whole
agree.
mixed nature of this film.
Yeah, love it. They did great.
Favorite line?
Art.
Wait, favorite line from Booksmart? Because my mind's always between two. It's when she gets slapped, but then I love. Wouldn't it be crazy? Wouldn't it be crazy if your teacher went into the party? That would be insane.
Yeah,
that'd be crazy. Never mind. Hey, have fun. Have fun.
Have fun.
The delivery of the line so funny. I don't know if you have one
Jessica
that
Williams in more movies.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. So
I don't know if you guys have any ones that stuck out to you off the top of your head from Booksmart.
I go to this every time somebody asks me, but my mom threw up, or my mom caught my vomit, or whatever.
Got my vomit. Oh my God, there's just so many good ones. It's just certain moments. It's like I could have shot you.
What were you thinking?
Like, what are you doing?
I like the half
that whole
pizza.
interaction in the car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Half cheese, half sausage, or 2 half cheese, half sausages,
Sausage.
or just 1 cheese, 1 sausage.
You fucking idiots. Yeah.
I have a comedy as well, and I did have right here as honorable mentions. I had Booksmart. I had what you mentioned, Brittany Runs a Marathon. The other 2 that I had would have been The Dead Don't Die and Good Boys. I love Good Boys.
It was fun.
There's one movie, one comedy this year that makes my top 10 because they had us up till 5 o'clock in the morning debating whether this was one of the greatest movies of all time. That is Greener
Grass.
Greener Grass. I love this movie. We talked about it extensively. The 3 of us have talked about it extensively. This feeling like a David Lynch movie that's really a comedy sketch on SNL. That it's like aliens observing the suburbs and then going back and going, bro, like, here,
let's
let me just
make a
reenact
movie.
it for you. Yeah, this is what they're like over there. It's crazy. I love it. You could see it as a comedy. You could see it as this over stylized, very zany, crazy, again, dissection of Suburbicon.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's great. I can't wait to see what both of these directors do next.
Yeah,
I know it's
just
not
very
everybody's.
interesting.
Yeah. I don't think it's everybody's cup of tea, but go check out our Sundance stories about this movie in particular, or even the Greener Grass Let Us Explain that we did about this.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend it. Your guys' thoughts on it, unless it's higher in your list. I don't know. I don't know.
It might be showing up later on my list.
Might be showing up later, but
yeah, it's not. It's in my honorable mentions, but it was so fun and just crazy. And like I said, the best way to describe it is it's like a movie made by aliens trying to describe what it's like to be a human.
What they just saw.
But they just don't, and they can never fully understand it. But it's just so fun and quirky, and I love it when people actually take chances in movies like that and do things in just an entirely different way. And it was just so wild. It was very fun. It was definitely one of the more enjoyable film festival watches for sure.
Yeah, a completely unique vision and very, very funny.
Yeah.
My number 9, another comedy, sticking with comedies here to get our list going, The Art of Self-Defense.
I'm so glad I mentioned that one. I had it there, but I was like, let me mention 2 other ones. Talk about his Zach.
Yeah, it's on my stuff too.
So this is the bone-dry comedy from Riley Stearns, starring Jesse Eisenberg as a weak, kind of nebbish man who experiences a traumatic beating and then tries to seek a sense of security through the art of self-defense, through the art of karate. Basically the movie sort of develops as this critique of masculinity and of the idea of being stronger, making you better or bigger than another person or more important. The way in which through his training he suddenly feels a sense of confidence until he realizes that like the false nature of the sources of that confidence. It's just a very funny look at I think the ways that we sort of present ourselves and the ways in which we value certain ideas of like dedication and hard work, but also it's just a really funny movie.
Funny.
Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg have so many funny lines in this. Their delivery is just perfect. It might be the best Jesse Eisenberg film role since Social Network.
I would agree, definitely.
It serves his humor so well.
Yes.
How dry it is. And on top of that, it's also all the stuff behind this. Like, it's not just the delivery of the lines. They put jokes, like, in the rules
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, you're going through the rules and you're like,
and you realize you're like, wait a minute, what? And you can tell they give you history in this room. Like you can tell that a rule was added because someone wasn't getting it, so they had to
like write it in again at the end. Yeah,
it's so funny. They had even sent this. I'm about to send it to you, Zach.
That's
the
awesome.
patch that includes a dog as well. They're hilarious on social media. Anytime you mention them, I had said that the dead don't die, and this movie the best dry humor out there, and they responded with, yeah, well, only one of them can stick it out to be the best, or something like that. I thought it was the funniest thing. So. Yeah, highly recommended as well.
Yeah, very good.
The Art of Self-Defense, that's at my number 9. Amanda, what's your number 9?
This might be, actually, because I moved Booksmart back down. This is probably my second one that we could have mentioned, that might have been mentioned before. Little Monsters. I'm keeping it up there just because of how much I enjoyed watching it. Like, there's nothing particularly new or special about it, but it's like a blend of all the best things that you want this kind of movie to be, you know? It's the story of an uncle who ends up tagging along on his nephew's kindergarten trip to a petting zoo because he has the hots for the teacher, played by Lupita Nyong'o. Academy Award winning actress Lupita Nyong'o. Just fantastic. And it's so fun. You've got Josh Gad putting his career on the line and with his Disney life on the line, just brutalizing kids, and it's just so hilarious. And it just stuck with me. And it was one of those ones when I sat down to make the video for it, I just was filled with this urge to.
When you're excited to actually make.
Yeah, because I was like, I need to see this again, but like it wasn't out yet where I was, and I was like, I need to see this again, like right now. And that's the best feeling when you're making a video about something. Because sometimes you make videos about things and you're like, oh, that was fun, but I can wait to see it again. But when you haven't, you're like, I need to see it. Yeah. I
know it's available on Hulu for us in America. Can you see it?
No, we don't have Hulu. I have it now, so I'm good now, but we don't have Hulu here. So I made the video to coincide with like the theatrical releases that were going around overseas, and then for the Hulu launch in America.
Yeah. Smart.
Yeah, so it was very, very good. Very enjoyable.
We've been getting a lot more zombie comedies in the last decade or so, but I think the whole marrying zombies with a little kindergarten field trip is definitely a unique perspective on that.
It was
and something that you guys have mentioned being something you loved is how her character throughout the film is trying to maintain the innocence of these children.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. It's a zombie apocalypse, but they don't know. They're playing to her. She's making them believe it's a game. And that was like my favorite thing about watching it at Sundance is that we got the interview with Abe Forsyth, the director, afterwards. And, he was like, the whole thing is just based off the fact that my son has all these health issues and I didn't know how I was going to trust him at school, tagged along to a school event and realized I would trust this woman more than I trust myself with my son. Yeah. And then that births this entire contained zombie story. And it was really well done. Feel good movie about zombies and kindergarten children, It shouldn't work, but it does.
I highly also recommend Amanda's video on it. She did a whole breakdown on pretty much how the zombie story, like she said, based off of the father and the son. Yeah. But how it became a love letter. So definitely go check out her video on that too.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Art, you're number 9.
I'm going horror. I second the, what did we just say? Little Monsters?
Yeah.
Little Zombies.
Oh, yeah. We are little zombies.
There's another, we are little zombies. Some people liked Us. Another Lupita Nyong'o performance, 2 for 1. I thought was good. Another movie that's kind of out there in VOD details from the launch, but my pick for one of the best horrors, Midsommar. I love it. I love it. I think it's great. And the best way that I can push it is that I kept arguing with Alina that Hereditary was still better. I've come to the conclusion, no.
It's not.
They're tied. They are tied. They're both just equally good. So Midsommar is my pick. My number 9 pick.
That was like such a crazy watch, like the way that you kind of realize at one point that it's not just that he's making horror movies, he's just making movies about grief, and apparently his next one's supposed to be a comedy, and I don't know if I want to see his comedy on grief.
It's gonna be great.
This one was in a weird, messed up way, a little bit of a comedy.
Yeah,
all of his movies are funny.
Yeah.
He's the sickest comedian, and I think it's great because one of what Peele did Mad TV for how long, and now he's one of our go-to horror directors. This man has been making horror movies, and he's like, no, I really want to be a comedian.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's so funny. It's great.
He's funny though. He did
yeah.
like a Reddit AMA, and someone was like, "Are you okay?" And he was just like, "No,
No.
no."
Yeah, he's the best. He's the best. And I love his movies.
It's been talked to death, but the whole idea of doing this horror movie in the light, in broad daylight, and still pulling off that sense of dread, that tension is so cool. And again, everybody said it, but wow, Florence Pugh having quite a year.
I was just tweeting about that.
Florence Pugh is our actress of the year.
Yeah, she's killing it. She
Personally.
literally, the day she finished filming Midsommar, she flew out and then immediately started Little Women. It was back to back.
Yeah.
They were already filming Little Women, and they had to
And not
just
to mention the
put her in.
Sundance ones that she had out. I think she had another movie called
Fighting with My
Malevolence,
Family.
And then she had Fighting with My Family. She has had one literal hell of a year.
Yeah, incredible actress.
So that's my number 9.
Word.
All right, my number 8, another Sundance selection. We're going to have a few on our list, I'm sure. The Last Black Man in San Francisco. This is one that I only caught up with more recently. It's the film written and directed by Joe Talbot with Jimmy Falls and Jonathan Majors. It's a gorgeously filmed movie. Probably my favorite cinematography of the year. Just the use of color and the sweeping shots of San Francisco streets. There's so much life and movement happening in this movie. It's set to a gorgeous score as well.
Yes.
That I believe is ineligible for the Oscars Best Score,
Because
which
it
is
uses
just a tragedy.
that San Francisco song. That's done a cappella, and I knew right away. I was like, this isn't eligible.
Right.
But who cares?
But-
It is
and
for
I-
us, right? One of the best.
It's for us, at least. We'll keep it in our hearts. But the Adam Newport Barra cinematography, absolutely worth watching.
Stupidly
It's so funny because I was so impressed with the cinematography, went to his IMDb and found out he's also the cinematographer for some episodes of Euphoria. Totally makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
But this movie is also just very emotionally affecting. The story of gentrification in San Francisco and a house that's been passed down through generations, lost to the younger generation. And it's this idea of legacy and whether or not you have ownership over something just because you own it, or if you have an attachment to it, like who really owns something. I think it just asks so many beautiful questions and does it in such an empathetic, well-acted, and gorgeously produced way. I was completely encapsulated by this film. It was just won me over, hypnotized me. I love that movie.
Dude, that was the most anticipated movie for me at Sundance last year.
I remember, yeah.
This thing comes out. Bro, if I have another thing to showcase, they released an entire little map for stuff we did in San Francisco. And leading up to Sundance last year, we did an entire road trip. San Francisco ended up being our, love Chicago.
Yeah.
Love New York. San Francisco is the most beautiful city in all of the United States of America. And they have this entire map that they released. It's great. It's so detailed. I highly recommend just checking this out because the amount of detail that went into the movie. I'm still reeling on the fact. I'm searching it up over here to see what episodes of Euphoria the cinematographer did because I have not shut up about this being one of the most beautiful looking movies of the year.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Incredible. Honestly, fantastic. After coming off of a year that had Black Panther, that had Blind Spotting, that had a bunch of other movies dealing with gentrification.
Yeah.
This movie, dude, every time I watch it, there's few movies where every time I watch it, they exponentially get better. This is one of them. This is one of them, easily.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And speaking of those movies like Blind Spotting and Black Panther and Sorry to Bother You, what a moment we're living in for creativity out of Oakland.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Absolutely.
Literally.
All right, so that's my number 8. Amanda, I think we're at your 8.
Cool. Oh, yeah, we are. I'm going to put Knives Out, which I've now comically seen 4 times.
Have you seen it with the commentary?
What?
Have you seen it with the commentary?
No, I have
He
not.
released a commentary. It's on his website. He said he did this for Looper and he did it for one of the other movies. Pretty much, he wants you to download the MP3. You go with your headphones and you can watch the movie with the commentary.
That's cool.
Interesting.
Didn't do that. It was just kind of some weird thing where we were supposed to go see it together as like an entire family one day, and then like my dad wasn't up for it. My mom was like, I still really want to see it, so let's just go. And then during the movie, my dad's like, oh, I'll finish up in the garage and we'll go tomorrow. So we were like, we can't tell him we went. We're just going to go again tomorrow. So I'd already seen it 2 times before that. But
that's funny.
Just a super fun movie. Like, it's honestly, can't say it's held up after 4 reviews, 2 of which were literally back to back, less than 24 hours apart. And it's very fun. Like, I know a lot of people hate Rian Johnson, but despite what you think about his Star Wars outing, the man knows what he's doing. He knows how to tell a story. He knows how to write a story. Especially something like this. There's so many different like weaving parts to this unconventional whodunit, and that's the best part about it. Whodunits, usually you're spending the entire movie with here's this character and here's why they never would have done it, and then 30 minutes down the road we're going to show you why they might have. They get all of that out of the way with every single character within the first 30 minutes of the movie. You know why this person might wanted to have killed somebody, why this person might wanted to have killed somebody, and then it just kind of weaves into a bit of a thriller. All while dealing with a lot of different social commentary issues, and just wraps up really nicely, where you still get that nice whodunit reveal, but in a very fun, quirky way with Daniel Craig with his foghorn leghorn. Let me weave you a tale.
Donut
accent.
hole in the donut hole.
Where there was actually another dough in that donut. So good. Just very fun, all-star cast of actors included, but nobody's overused just for the sake of saying you use them.
Exactly.
It's very enjoyable. It's just a fun movie. It's probably one of the ones I saw at TIFF that was the easiest to recommend to everyone. That there wasn't really many people that I could say, go watch this movie and you'll enjoy it. And that's one of them for sure.
Yeah, definitely a movie that's probably easy to recommend to just about anyone because it's so well plotted and so fun. Just the way that it keeps you guessing and sort of on your toes about what could happen next. Just so expertly written in a way that I feel like makes you acknowledge what a good filmmaker Rian Johnson could
absolutely.
be. It's just when you watch it and you want to pay a little bit more attention to things like the path of the baseball throughout the movie.
Yeah, I noticed something new just the last time.
Right, like it's things like that are just such deft touches of filmmaking that really make Knives Out such a great experience. Yeah,
like there's I won't even spoil, but there's lemons somewheres that I noticed it the last time, and I was like, oh, awesome. Okay, that's really cool. I think it looks beautiful. I think the music that it's scored just perfectly. It's got these really nice, like quick, sharp violins and just very, very good. Loved it. Yeah, so that's my number 8.
Second, it's pretty. Love the movie.
Yeah.
Dude, I was looking at this and I realized I had more than 10. But I fixed. It's fixed. It's fixed.
It's fixed. Okay.
My number 8 is a drama. That is taking this spot over, like I had mentioned, Beautiful Day, all the other ones.
Yeah.
It's taking it over 2 movies named The Farewell and Honey Boy.
Ooh.
That this one has to be over. And y'all know I mess with The Farewell and Honey Boy.
Yeah. Same.
But if I see The Irishman, I'm watching it. The Irishman ain't playing it, I'm still watching it. It's playing, I'm watching it. If it's not playing, still watching it. I've seen The Irishman 7 times. I don't even know how.
Wow. That's incredible.
It's just always playing in my house. I remember when we first caught it, and I told Zach, I was like, "How is he?" He's like, "It's Scorsese, man." That's all he said. He's like, "It's Scorsese, man. What do you think?"
Yeah.
Of course, that week he had Irishman, and then Parasite, and then Portrait, and then of course Joker. But
Joker.
Yeah, he had a pretty big New York weekend that for that film festival.
Got Marriage Story in there too. That was a good New York Film Fest.
Oh my God, Marriage Story.
At a certain point, I thought Irishman was going to make the Diamond.
Oh,
we went from Trinity, we went to the Diamond, but it did not make the top 4. The top 4 that aren't just the best of the year, but some of the best of the decade.
Absolutely.
But man, is it up there. Personally, I really love this movie. I love The Irishman. I think it's an epic. I love the entire story around it. The idea that Netflix wanted to sit at the big boys table, so they're like, Marty, take 150 mil. That's dumb.
Right.
That's dumb. You should not have. That's irresponsible with your money.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Netflix. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
I love Jimmy Hoffa. I love Al Pacino's Jimmy Hoffa. I quote him all the time. I do this thing that he does with the Sunday, where he's like, "What are you talking about?" The whole, if a man has a gun, you run. If he's got a
God,
knife,
do you know how many
attack.
McDonald's Sundays I went to get after that movie just so I could have some
because that's
peanuts on
all
my
he ate.
Sunday?
I love the ideology of Frank Sheeran and how it wasn't greed, it wasn't any of these other stuff that really brought his demise. It was loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is such a twist.
It's crazy. I don't know how many people know the story of where it goes. I've heard some people who are like, that's not the way it went. I was like, how do you know? And they're from Jersey too. I was like, how do you? But I love the.
I thought we didn't know where Jimmy Hoffa's
we didn't
body
know.
was.
Yeah, we don't know where
They're talking
Jimmy
about, like,
Hoffa's
they know where Hoffa's body's at.
Yeah.
Irishman also has the return of Joe Pesci in a role that is unlike Joe Pesci. It's very subdued.
Yes.
But I loved it. Seeing even the side characters, Bobby Cannavale eating steak.
Stephen Graham giving a really great performance.
Keep going.
Yep.
Keep going. The lawyer. Bro,
Ray Romano.
Ray Romano had a
Our boy.
year. He has been having a movie after movie every single year from The Big Sick, and then he followed that up. I know you really like Paddleton.
Paddleton and
I
lots.
like him and Paddleton a lot.
Yeah.
He was great in this movie. I love The Irishman. It flies by at 3.5 hours.
I
wish
agree.
it was longer.
As we've talked about on the show, I went and saw it at the New York Film Festival. And then it pops up on Netflix, and I'm trying to watch it at home, and discussing it with my girlfriend. And it's like, when are you going to find time for a 3.5 hour movie? And then we finally sit down for it, and it's like, oh, this is just cruising on by, because it's Scorsese, and that man can pace a movie.
Yeah, he knows pacing.
Like no other.
He knows pacing.
And you think about how much fun it is to hang out with a movie like Goodfellas, to hang out with a movie like Casino, to hang out with a movie like The Departed. He's able to get that vibe, even though so many of these characters are despicable. There's just like energy and an electricity to the filmmaking with these bits of humor. I love the ongoing thing where they show you how these people died, and then you get the one guy who died happily surrounded by love.
I love that. It was so
Fat
good.
Tony, loved by everyone, died of a heart attack. Even later on in the movie, they go, I'm not going to go if it's just him. Nah, Tony's going to be there. Oh, Tony, that's a nice guy.
Yeah, it's a nice guy.
It kills me. It's the small little things that kill me. I have to say
details.
2 things about this movie, and then we move on with it. One, Marty's a mobster. This man said, how do I get people to talk about this movie?
The thing about Marvel is...
Yeah, who could take down the mob except another mobster, God.
Bro, I still don't know how he finessed 150 mil out of this movie. It's got some of them, I have quoted lines off of this movie more than I've quoted anything else literally on my list.
Wow.
Literally on my list. I love this movie. I love this movie. I don't know what else to say.
I agree.
The epic from Martin Scorsese, at number 8 on our churros list. My number 7, it's my one sheet. I decided to give myself a little bit of leeway here because, as we mentioned, the roster of 2019 is so deep. How do you limit it to just 10?
Yeah, I agree.
So I didn't. I've got 2 movies at number 7.
Hey, finally, thank you. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's cheat.
They're my 2 favorite documentaries of the year, and they're both movies that I saw out of Sundance. I got Honeyland, and I got Midnight Family.
Yeah, I knew. Yeah,
talk about it.
Family.
Yeah. So Midnight Family, I've brought up plenty, but it finally was released here in New York and in LA. It's in limited release, but you might be able to find it. The story of a family that operates an ambulance out of Mexico City, and through this one case, through this one family, you're able to get a glimpse of the failing healthcare system in Mexico as a whole. It's just a really incredible film, just the way that they're able to be perched on the shoulder of these guys as they race to crime scenes to try and save people, but also they're in this situation where they're actively negotiating their fees and stuff.
Yeah.
For it'll take forever for me to explain it, but please go watch it. It got shortlisted as one of the best documentary choices at the Oscars.
Very good.
So I'm not the only one who likes this movie.
Yeah,
Just throwing that out there. But Honeyland, wow. This documentary is so good that it not only made the best documentary shortlist, it made the best foreign film shortlist at the Academy Awards.
That's crazy, Like at that point, you're doing that like statistics things where it's like, well, if it got nominated for foreign and best picture, foreign's a lock.
Yeah.
just the story of this Macedonian bee farmer, unbelievable cinematography in this one. And when some new people move in next door to her and also try to use the natural resource of these bees, the ways in which it affects their livelihoods and the environment, it just becomes this unreal encapsulation of a global issue that we're seeing with our climate. Two unreal stories that speak to larger issues by focusing on a small thing. I would recommend them to anybody because they're not only unreal documentaries, but just unreal feats of filmmaking with some of the best cinematography I've seen this year. And to say that for a documentary, I think is unreal. So, Midnight Family, Honeyland.
If I may add a couple of documentaries, since we're cheating here. I want to second your American Factory one on Netflix. Very good. I want to second the Amazing Jonathan documentary, which that's what I had to move when I realized my top 10's top 14. I have these on here. Amazing Jonathan documentary on Hulu. And then a secret one that I'll throw out there, only because it's not out yet. Who Let the Dogs Out? The story about the song and who actually let the dogs out. I'm not even kidding. It goes deeper than what you think it does.
Okay.
You caught that one at South by Southwest.
Yeah. It was crazy. They had the original floppy disk with the original
That's amazing.
So I just wanted to mention those there, but I double Midnight Family, beautiful looking film.
So good.
He literally pitched it to me at Sundance, and we were able to catch it because it had won. I think cinematography probably. Or it won something.
It did.
So we went to go see it, and it was very beautiful shot, especially when you consider this is on the cuff filmmaking. During
they're not stopping.
Yeah.
They're not stopping to set up these shots.
It's incredible.
Run and gun.
It's incredible.
So good picks.
My number 7s. Amanda, how about you?
My number 7, and we're kind of getting into the floating movie territory. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Very good.
Big fan of Quentin Tarantino. I liked Hateful Eight, but I did find the way I described that is that like everything was just he dialed everything in just a little bit too high. It's like it was a little bit too vulgar. It was a little bit too violent at times. It was just a little bit too much, like just really long exposition scenes that like his old editor Sally definitely would have tightened down on. And not opposed to it because it was beautiful, but it's like I didn't dislike it, but it didn't hit the same way that something like Inglourious Basterds would have. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, while still having just these long shots of Cliff Booth driving through Hollywood, it was just so beautiful and gorgeous seeing the city lit up in that way that you don't even notice that it's happening. I love the fact that it really is just this like love letter to Hollywood from Tarantino, who grew up loving all of those old like just the old acting lead mans and the westerns and the something that's kind of I find that's not dying out, but just something that's definitely not as prominent now.
All of the little old Hollywood details, like all the mentions of the Spawn movie ranch.
Yeah,
too,
absolutely.
Like
just the little things like that. And small details. And I know that some people aren't really a fan of when he does like the altered history stuff, but he did ask for permission from, Sharon Tate's sister just to give it the okay. And I think it was dealt with like respectfully. It didn't glorify Manson. He's barely in the movie. It doesn't over focus on that at all. And it's just this really amazing story of like a person. So I always find that there's a very good dichotomy between Margot Robbie's character and Leonardo DiCaprio's character, who have both had these crazy careers, and hers is kind of more subdued. She's only been in a few things, but she's so happy that she's just been in anything, and she walks up to the movie theater being like, oh, I'm in that movie. It's so exciting. Whereas Cliff is now kind of facing this like obsolescence where he thinks that he's now useless, and it's just kind of interesting to see how they both see the same, almost like the same trajectory of a career that they're having in completely different ways. And I love it. It's a great watch. I got that like cool collector's edition that comes with like the record and stuff.
You got the vinyl that comes with it too?
I did, yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I got that.
What else does it come with? Because I've been I want to buy it because I want to get all the special features.
It comes with a Mad City comic. Not Mad City, Mad comic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the last actual Mad magazine comic that they're ever going to make, apparently. After that, they're just going to do reprints. It's got a Operación Dynamite poster and a few other things. It's cool. It's cool. I like it.
If I may, the one thing I would add about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which, as you said, asked for permission in the name. It's in the name. Once Upon a Time.
It's in the name. Once Upon a Time. It's a fairy tale. Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
This movie has everything. I had read other people had mentioned it, but the more times that I've seen it, I was like, yo, you're right. Like you said, they're juxtapositioning each other, but then there's also a young actress.
Yeah,
who's
absolutely.
also on the come up. There's people who have retired. There's directors, there's producers, there's stunt people, there's everything. Yeah. There's a Wilhelm scream. It's shot in this ratio, this ratio, this ratio, and this ratio. It's shot in black and white. It's shot in Technicolor. It's shot on film. I believe I don't know if he had some digital stuff. I want to say he didn't, obviously.
Probably not. He's not a fan of digital, so I don't see him.
He had almost... There's ADR, there's flashbacks, there's flash forwards, there's dream sequences. Yeah. It's like a movie that literally has almost every Hollywood technique. Yeah. There are famous actors. There are new actors. There are parents. There are all the children. Of famous actors.
All the children of famous actors. Yeah.
It's a very cool movie where the more you go back to it, you realize how extensively he went into it. And again, I can't wait to dive into the special features because I can only imagine.
Yeah, I just watched like a 2-hour interview with him on... I can't remember what the channel is.
Was it the Collider one?
Now. What?
Was it the Collider one? I know they just released a fresh one.
No. This was like a YouTube channel that does interviews, and they've interviewed him twice. This is the second time, but he literally sat down and he just didn't leave for like 2 hours. He just
right. Like, you think we talk a lot?
Yeah, he loves talking, and like not in a bad way. So it was like really interesting just to hear kind of like. So it was actually Leo's idea to pitch the when he's like line when he messes up that scene,
right?
And they have to reset the shot. That was Leo's idea, and Quentin was like, I just want my perfect Lancer movie, though, inside this other movie, but that's a damn good idea. Yeah. So, like, they set it up, and it's, like, one of the defining moments of the film, because you start getting so lost in that scene that you forget that it's a scene within a scene, and just when you're fully invested, line, perfect. Yep. So good. Yeah, big fan.
Number 7, Art.
Under the Silver Lake.
Love it.
Talk about it.
It's good. It's weird. It's a puzzle. I had other movies on here like La Belle Époque, a French movie. It's not fully out yet. I really like that one. Knives Out. Ad Astra.
Yeah.
Boy, it's got to be Under the Silver Lake. This is a movie, man.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even know what
it's like a conspiracy theory that's trying to tell you like not to actually buy into conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories while being a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, absolutely.
And while it's all fun in there, it gets you.
Yeah, it does.
It gets you. There's one thing that Alina, and it's the best thing that I'll say of it. A24 tried to hide this movie. I don't know, but there is a person wearing stuff on his shirt, and it's just like symbols. And Alina's like, I think you could decipher that. I was like, okay, all right, like, homie chill. Bro, she comes back, and it's like, I'm pretty sure it says something, but I'm missing one word. And it was like way too on the dot. I was like, all right, this is like a little too close. Yeah. If that last one in Morse code doesn't equal what you think it is, then you're nowhere close. It equaled exactly what you thought it was. Amazing. It actually has to do with the movie, and it scared me. I haven't gone back to revisit this yet, but I already have 3 pages of notes. Yeah. Just for this movie. How can I not have it on here?
Yeah, I feel like I've been planning I feel like I've been planning a video on that for ages, and it just doesn't happen. But it's just
right. You want to know what it is? He refuses to say a word about the movie.
And I'm like, okay, this is fine. But there's a subreddit dedicated to it, so I was going to go through that. Like,
but he refuses to talk. You're opposite of Tarantino, who just won't shut up about everything in the movie.
Yeah.
Wow. Zach, have you had the chance to see it yet?
No, this is one of the ones that I missed. I mentioned.
Dude, I am really excited for you to just text me all of your thoughts while things are happening. It's a crazy movie. I can see why people may not like it, and they may think it's a little too over the top, but I think it's rewarding enough. I talk about movies like Enemy, which of course Enemy's way higher in my overall decade list, but a movie like that, even if you don't like it, if it doesn't hit your subconscious in the same way, at least you can respect the fact that my man Denny had everyone sign a contract, because he knew that what he was putting into the movie was all concrete. It's a very very well put together movie that has so much thought into it that rewards you with every rewatch and the attention that you give to it.
Yeah, it's like Knives Out, but like crazy. It's like it's like Knives Out with mental illness. Yeah, it's just like
it's too much.
Yeah, exactly.
So I highly recommend it. Amazon Prime. It's available on Amazon Prime as of now. If
and you can, but I have it on Blu-ray, so you can purchase it physically.
Stop. I gave my whole story on that.
Stop.
I bought the digital, and then the Blu-ray comes out the next day.
Yeah.
And it's on Amazon Prime the next week.
Sucks.
But I own it, so.
Sucks to suck.
All right.
All right. So Art's number 7, Under the Silver Lake. My number 6 is a movie that we saw back at the Toronto International Film Festival. Waves.
Bro, that's my number 6 too!
There we go.
Let's talk about it, Zach.
Let's talk about it, because Trey Edward Schultz really has one here.
You still thinking about Waves?
I'm still thinking about Waves. I'm thinking about Waves every day, man.
Bro.
It's a highly emotional journey. One that's constantly shifting frame sizes and soundtracks and perspectives, and it has such a unreal energy to it. The way that the camera moves with the characters, that it spins around, you're constantly kind of like wrapped up in the grandeur of it all and in all the emotions of it, because Trey is trying to do this thing where he's mimicking the power of these teenage emotions through the bigness of his camera here. And you kind of get how affecting these moments are in these people's lives through his filmmaking. It's a really unreal movie with just an unreal soundtrack.
Yeah.
Talk about like ripping stuff straight from my Spotify playlist. Like
how he got this?
Kanye,
Yeah.
Chance,
Frank,
Tame Impala, Radiohead.
Frank Ocean.
Unreal. I really, really felt a lot through this movie. I don't know if this is necessarily like the best constructed or 6th best constructed movie of the year, but it's so much movie, and I felt so much from it that I'd be denying something if I didn't give it a high place on my list.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally agree to the spot. Waves is everything he said, and maybe sometimes a bit more. It's a movie that we right afterwards went straight to McDonald's and we're talking about it, and we were like, "Yo, did you?"
One of those. You really gotta have a good discussion after.
Yeah, when he was like, "Did you notice that she said that, which means that what she did at the beginning, she was doing it this way because that's her hit." There's a certain point in the movie where everything just changes, and it feels like it's 2 movies in one. It really feels like you're getting Waves and Waves Part 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
I had compared it to Place Beyond the Pines in the way that it really just feels like, you could call it a 3-parter, but it really just felt like 2 halves of a story that could have been 2 completely different movies. And there was a Carson Runquist, our good friend Carson, had said he had seen it before, so he's like, "Bro, the soundtracks." And I was like, "I've heard." And the entire time, Zach and I are literally hitting each other. Like, we're like, "Bro, what's the song?" There's a line. I like Lucas Hedges in the movie.
Yeah.
That if I was on the back of the DVD stuff, on the Blu-rays,
I like Lucas Hedges.
They're like, "Hey, we need a quote from you." I like Lucas Hedges in this movie. That should speak volumes. If I'm getting the opportunity, if people know who I am at that point, you would know that me saying Lucas Hedges, I liked him in the movie. That's a big deal. But on top of it, Carson had said and Zach just touched on it right now, that there's a scene in this movie that just embodies, like no other film has, teens in the 21st century, in the age of social media.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't sure which scene he was talking about because we haven't been able to touch upon it yet. And then I realized it's the entire movie.
Yeah.
It's the entirety of the movie. It's every shot. Like he said, the way they capture it's like, what's going on here? It's you're a teenager. You're a teenager for the next 2 hours and 15 minutes. And it was very interesting reading reviews off of TIFF going, "Why doesn't he? Oh, you're 65.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. No offense. But I get the difference here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like I get some things in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. My joke has been is like, I wish I had Alicia Malone's knowledge. I don't. So things they hit a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And things hit a little bit differently in Waves.
Yeah.
And things can hit really hard at times.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to say that, but yeah.
Hard as Hereditary.
Yeah, those are our number 6s.
Cool. I had a different number 6.
What you got?
I do like Waves. Waves ended up on my honorable mentions, but I feel like I need to see it again. But I did really enjoy it. This is like, as you guys, if you guys are from my channel at all, you know that I've been literally talking up Shia LaBeouf since January. And this is not the one that I like even more, but Peanut Butter Falcon.
Okay.
Okay, I really love Peanut Butter Falcon. I'm sure this seems pretty low on the list, but there was just
high.
What?
That's pretty high.
Yeah, it's 6. You know, that's what I meant, like high on the list. Sorry, high.
Yeah.
But it's just.
I mean, at one point, this was one of Art's considerations for best of it. I know he made it one of his honorable mentions.
But yeah,
a really affecting movie. What'd you like about it, Amanda?
I feel like there's some stuff they could have touched on more, but I just I just thought the story itself was like really heartwarming, where you have kind of one person who's trying to run for his dreams, one person who's just trying to run away from himself. And you kind of have this like winding tale where, you know, this one person helps not only make Shai's character realize that like maybe I don't have to run from myself. I can actually like open up my heart again to someone else. And there's just so many nice moments. And it's just another one of those movies, like from Shai's character's perspective, everything's about guilt. He feels like super guilty about something that he feels responsible for happening, and that's shaping the rest of his life. And part of the reason why he's running. And then you get, I just loved Zach Gottigan, I think is his name.
Yeah.
It's just so nice. It's one of those movies you just feel nice. You're watching it, and I felt heartwarming. Like I caught it when I was in LA because it wasn't playing anywhere near here. And it was just so happy and nice and just heartwarming. And you feel all these emotions, and it's like a beautiful adventure at the same time. And like again, this is one of those ones, seeing some of the interviews afterwards where Shai is like, you know, at first I was like really protective of Zach because I didn't want people coming at him, and then I realized like he doesn't need any help, and then he realizes that like I'm kind of the broken one, and he kind of takes that protective notion over me, which is like really reflected in the movie as well. And I loved it.
The character of Zach being kind of the central character in this film, and him having Down syndrome, but the film itself not really being about Down syndrome, just kind of being this adventure story, I think is a really affecting method of kind of portraying this kind of friendship.
I want to touch on one thing there for sure as well, because there's like a moment. So obviously, what happens essentially is Zach Gottigan, who has Down syndrome, basically is living in an adult care senior facility because they don't really know what else to do with him, and he wants to be a professional wrestler. So he breaks out of this care home, and he's just like running down the street. He's just running all buttered up, running down the street in his underwear. But it gets him, obviously one of the workers, who's played by Dakota Johnson, is trying to find him. And there's like this moment on the boat, and Shai's like, you know, put your head underwater, go see if you can catch a fish. And then he's like, stop doing that. And she's like, what? It's like, stop treating him like he's an R word. And she's like, I would never call him that. And she's like, no, you're not calling him that, but you're treating him that way.
Right.
You don't think he can take care of himself, but he's been just fine here the last 2 weeks. Like, you know, not 2 weeks, but, you know, he's been just fine living his life. So stop treating him that way. Just because you're not calling him a mean name doesn't mean you're not undervaluing him. I really like that aspect of the film.
Yeah,
it's
one of my favorite scenes of the year. When we caught it back at South by, I have a little sister who has Down syndrome.
I didn't know that.
It was funny because when we were waiting in line for Booksmart, there's these two ladies who needed a charger. They were Zach's mom.
Oh,
I didn't realize that. That's so cool.
We had talked we kept bumping into each other at screenings because the producers weren't watching movies, but they had a film pass.
Of course.
They gave it to the mom.
Oh.
The mom and her friend, and they were just touring around everywhere. So we'd be like, "Hey, you're watching this movie too!"
That's
and she kept
nice.
saying, "She's like, are you watching Peanut Butter Falcon?" I was like, "Yeah, I got tickets for this day." And we were there. They sat right behind us. And I absolutely loved the movie.
Yeah.
I do get asked. It's like, I thought you loved Peanut Butter Falcon. I was like, "Yeah, I saw it," and I do. But we saw like 600 movies this year.
Yeah, there's so many movies this year.
It's still like top 15. It's just not top 10. But that scene in particular, it hit me when
really
they were
good.
having that conversation about like, don't treat him. You're not
Not
saying you're not calling him that, but you are treating him like that. You're undervaluing what he could do as a person. And seeing Zach go up there and just handle the Q&A. You're like, next question. It was the best. It was great. It was great.
I love that.
All right, 5 movies up, 5 movies to go. I have a feeling we'll be doing some repeats when we get into our top 5. So let's say if they're showing up on our list later, and we'll save the discussion for when it's highest ranked.
Gotcha.
But for number 5, I am going to mention one that we already talked about a little bit. This is My Greener Grass slot. Oh. You know, coming out of Sundance, it wasn't the movie that I would say I liked the most. And I don't even say it was the movie that I liked like in the top 3 out of Sundance, but it just kind of burrows in the back of your brain, all the little things about this movie, all the eccentricities, and what do the graves mean, what do the braces mean, and stuff like that. And then, you know, it finally came out on VOD, and I was able to rent it, and I just gobbled it up. I was watching it over and over and over again, trying to just analyze the different jokes and what they could possibly be commenting on. And it's just such a fun movie to pick over, not to mention such a funny movie. Some of the jokes are just, it's so off the wall and bizarre, and great performances from the co-writers Jocelyn DeBoer.
They're
and
in
Don
the movie.
Luby.
Yeah.
They're so funny.
Yeah. I just think it's such a great movie to spend time with and to talk to people about. I've been showing it to friends because it's one of those movies that I don't think a lot of people even have on their radar.
No.
But I think everybody would at least have reactions to it. It might be too weird for some friends.
Yeah.
of
It's
yours,
fine.
but I've really enjoyed my time with it. So please go check out our Let Us Explain on Greener Grass, where we break down some of our theories about the movie. I think it's totally worth your time. And yeah, my number 5 of the year.
Nice.
Nope.
My number 5 definitely would not be on yours, Zach, because I just saw you rate it recently. But I enjoy Jojo Rabbit. I enjoyed the hell out of Jojo Rabbit. I have seen it a few times, and I do agree that it hits a point towards the end where it does kind of lose a little bit of momentum, and there's a few extra things that they probably could have not added or edited around a little bit better, or just written something better. But it's I ended up catching this one twice at TIFF because I had tickets for it on Sunday, which was the very last day of the festival. And I just couldn't wait any longer. So I hit a Thursday morning. I was like, I'm just going to go see the press showing and see if I can get into it. And if I don't see it, I'll just catch something else. And we talk about this all the time. The press showings are always usually not bad, but the crowds usually suck at the press showings. I almost forgot I was in a press showing because the people were reacting to it so well. People are cheering, people were laughing, and there was clapping at the end, which never happens at press screenings. I don't know if there was a handful.
Normally they're too stuffy for that kind of
absolutely.
reaction.
Normally they are too I assume that this was probably heightened on press and maybe some of the volunteers a little bit higher than it was the press and industry type people.
But it also kind of was this big wave of a movie at TIFF. It ended up winning the People's Choice Award.
People's Choice. Last year's People's Choice won the Oscar.
I know. But then I feel like they stifled it. They really did limited releases and delayed releases in some places. So it's they didn't want to trust it.
We've full grown, right?
Yeah.
Kill the limited
releases. Just release it. Just especially something like this where it's already proven that it's being successful at a film festival. People are enjoying it.
It's Taika
Waititi, who's
from the director of
Thor
Ragnarok.
You can literally just market it on that alone. If you're worried about the fact that somebody's portraying Hitler in it, you just got to mention from the Jewish director of Thor Ragnarok. Come.
Do you think you had mentioned your press screening and how they were really into it?
They were
Our press screening at TIFF was not into it. It was very much divided.
That sucks.
Especially when you got to certain jokes like the Stephen Merchant coming in and the phrase that they say,
the Heil Hitler,
over and over and over again. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
You could feel the people sitting next to you who didn't think it was funny. And I was at the showing where everyone came out and said, it's a beautiful life. And people were like, ooh. And other people were like, ooh. It also made me realize that if some people are really torn on a beautiful life as well.
Jeez.
So, and as we know, it was a very torn, Joker ended up becoming the bigger one that got a lot of the stuff, but this one got it too. And I agree with you. I think it could have carried a better momentum if they would have trusted it more on the release.
Yeah, I think they needed to trust it more, and because it was just really enjoyable. Because we get so I made an entire video about this on my channel that I'm actually really happy with how it came out. But obviously, there was a lot of people who were mad that they treated just Nazis in general comically. And I'm like, yeah, but that's kind of the beauty of something like this, and the fact that this is a 10-year-old's interpretation of an imaginary version of Hitler. He can't be the sinister Hitler because that kid doesn't have the perception of that. Yeah. And making them comical and making the Nazis these buffoons has always been the best way to undermine dictators. Making them out to be the big bad is important, and a lot of times to express how serious that time was, but to make a commentary on it in a way that
foolish they were,
yeah, exactly, how stupid you are to believe some of the things that they believed. That's important too. That's really important, especially in the current climate and stuff, where stuff like that is always pertinent. It's really important. And you see it today, dictators hate being made fun of. There's a reason why Winnie the Pooh is banned in China. And I just
shout out South Park.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just, I really liked it. I thought it was really heartwarming, and I think that it's a really good and interesting look at how people can become indoctrinated into ideas that they don't actually believe in or know anything about, and how just giving them a shift of perspective or putting something in someone in front of them where they can't ignore the fact that their beliefs are dumb is just really well and is like really important. I also thought it was like acted really well. I loved Roman Griffin Davis and Mackenzie. Thomas and Mackenzie, sorry. Thomas and Mackenzie.
Yes.
Both fantastic.
Also had a great year.
Yeah, absolutely. Scarlett Johansson was fantastic as well as the mother. Just so many things about this stood out to me. It was super enjoyable. Again, it was one of those ones that I have a really easy time recommending to people as long as I can just stress the fact that, like, yes, there's an imaginary version of Hitler in this, and because it's a 10-year-old. And that's the kind of perspective you don't really get from something like this, is the perspective of a child.
Right.
Which I like.
I think a lot of times people talk about the idea of like, oh, well, how could you buy into, like, I would never be a Nazi if I was in Nazi Germany. And I think one of the things that Jojo Rabbit does well is kind of show that it's not about you, it's about your environment and what you're kind of conditioned to believe and stuff like that.
Especially when you're a child and you get indoctrinated.
Yeah, you're indoctrinated, and your parents are letting it happen to protect you.
Yeah.
Like, it's scary. But I enjoyed it.
Right, Jojo Rabbit, number 5 on Amanda's list. Art, what's your 5?
Luce. People, man, I keep getting called out because it's not on top of the 4. He's like, so why did you even like Luce then? I was like, look.
I thought you loved Luce. I thought Luce was your number 1.
Why do you lie? I was
yeah,
like,
but TIFF just came in and sidewiped everything,
I'm
you know?
sorry, you know?
No, I'm sorry.
It's like, well, what can I say? It's right outside of the diamond. But Luce is one of the best movies of the year, man. I am still reeling from it. Bro, I had a whole, 6 months just talking about it. And right before, I had the notes written and ready to go. Why Luce is my favorite movie of the year. And I always start off that yearly video by going, just so you know, I will change my mind if there is a better movie than Parasite. Spoiling a little bit later on, but Parasite. I loved Luce. I think it has one of the best lines of the year. What fireworks? I'm gonna just leave it there. I love the perspectives that they cover. It's been very interesting hearing varying opinions on it. I've seen what the screenwriter has done. He has done some insane plays. I can see how it aggravates people. I can see how that's also the points of the movie. I think it's a beautiful perspective between and Kelvison having what a year. Waves and Luce.
Yeah, Waves
back
and
to
back
for me. Just embodying teenage angst through his two performances.
Yeah. I feel like so much credit is given to Timothy, so much credit is given to, what's his name, who I did like in
Lucas
ways.
Hedges.
Lucas.
Nah, but Calvin Harrison Jr., since what he did previously, it comes at night.
Yeah.
A bunch of the other projects that he's been working on. I think he's really been on one. If I can back up a bit and say he had a lot of input in the story for Waves as well. He was a collaborator with the director. And in Luce, he carries the movie. I think it's a fantastic performance.
Yeah,
some people see him as a psychopath. Some people see him as a genius. I see it as one of the best movies of the year.
It's good.
And I love it.
Yeah, a lot of media in the modern era attempts to sort through our current race issues and sex issues and all these sort of different hot points with more objective points of view. And one of the things that's very exciting about Luce is it's a movie that acknowledges all the issues and kind of throws its hands up and it's like, I don't know, guys, you figure this one out.
Yeah.
But it does it in a way that's really intriguing and I think promotes discussion.
Yeah.
So yeah, it totally effective.
It's not a movie.
Made my honorable
It's
mentions.
not a movie that's black and white. You're gonna get dirty.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
gonna come out going, you don't know who's who, who's right. Yeah, it's a crazy movie. That's my number 4, or my number 5. Sorry.
5. Yeah.
Your number 5. My number 4. It's a movie that we've discussed here on Let Us Explain. It's Uncut Gems.
Woo, let's get into it.
Let's get it. My gems are uncut. So are Adam Sandler's. He plays Howie Bling.
This is how I win.
This is how
he wins. The New York City diamond jeweler, always on the move, always betting and owing money to different people. He's, his life is just a constant series of negotiations.
It's an extended Scott's
places.
Tots in terms of how uncomfortable you're gonna feel.
It's just an unreal tension-filled experience where you kind of enter this guy's life in the midst of a crisis, and the crisis just never stops.
Yep.
But it's so affecting through this performance of Adam Sandler's, where you see how he has just enough charm to keep things in the air, keep balls moving, keep plates spinning, and also this just incredible production from the Safdie brothers, where sounds bleed into other sounds, and the score has this like pulsing 80s energy that carries you through the movie. It's unrelenting in the best kind of way, because it's one of those movies that picks you up, forces you to feel a certain way for 2 hours, and then throws you out. It's
Thank you for coming.
I think
exactly.
I don't know if we've mentioned this on Intercut, but our buddy Andres saw the movie and his Apple Watch went up to 190 on his pulse.
Oh my God. That's hilarious. I don't blame you. Like when I watched it, like this old couple and like 4 old people, no offense, old people, had to leave. Like they just left. They flat out got up and left. I was like,
we had a couple of people who left. We had a young couple who literally got up from our
yeah, we were all the same ones. Yeah.
It's not a very pleasant experience of a movie, but it's so affecting and so funny at points too. I mean, this is such a unreal Adam Sandler performance.
Yeah.
Dude, the way that he tries to weasel out of situations, him crying at the reveal of Julia Fox's tattoo is so good.
I love it.
So good,
dude. Kevin Garnett.
I loved spending time in this world.
Garnett.
Maybe didn't love it, but I loved the movie.
Yeah. Just the people who were able to play themselves. Kevin to The Weeknd.
Yeah.
To
the Kevin Garnett performance instantly has to rank in like the pantheon of great people portraying themselves in movies
that aren't real.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I had to look this up, and I'm like, is The Weeknd really like this? Like,
is The Weeknd really a douche?
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, the pacing of it, all of it. Amanda, you said you saw JoJo twice at TIFF.
Yeah.
Zach saw Uncut Gems twice at TIFF.
Yeah. That's harsh. That's hard.
Yeah,
that was one of the. Uncut was one of the last movies I saw. Yeah, because it would have been because that was that was your last movie. I had 2 more after that, but one of them was JoJo, so it was like my second to last new movie.
Saw Uncut Gems. Had to drive back home from Toronto to Chicago. Yeah, I was awake.
I saw Waves, then Uncut. Like you'll wonder why Waves didn't crack my top 10. Yeah, I know, right? No, I saw. The one with Shailene Woodley after, so it was a lot calmer.
Calmed you down. I second everything that Zach said. I have it an extra spot up above than 4, but literally everything he says. I love the lesson at the end. I see it as a lesson. Reminds me a lot of another movie I won't mention to not spoil Uncut Gems. It's got a limited release as of now. I had heard that it has a partnership with Netflix for distribution internationally. So we'll see if that ends up becoming something that can be for American viewers. But Amanda, you might be getting it because, technically Canada's international. So we'll see how that goes.
We'll find out. Yep.
All right, so Uncut Gems, I have it for Amanda. What made number 4 for you?
I have Marriage Story, which
that's my number 4. Let's
go. Hell yeah. That one was kind of hard because I almost want there's sometimes I want to put it higher, but I managed to weasel my way into a very last second screening at TIFF because everything was sold out, and I just at the very last second just went up and was like, "Is there anything?" And they were like, "Yes, actually, like 1 ticket just came back in."
2 of your best tickets, 2 of your best seats in the theater, please.
Yes, exactly. Like, yes, and I just, and I just went in, and it was, it's like one of the best parts about the movie is actually the trailers that they released, which is just, Charlie and Nicole talking about what they like about the opposite person. And it's just so beautiful and honest and real in a way that movies don't always manage to capture. And then the movie just continues to be that the entire time. When it came out on Netflix, I watched it back to back. Like once it was done, I queued it up again.
Started again.
Queued it up again. So I'm basically, Marriage Story is my Irishman if I'm Arturo, Just queued it up again.
That's a way to phrase it. Now, Amanda, considering it's my number 4 as well, I don't know how you feel about this, but, if you have a degree in acting and no roles and you're on Twitter, you're supposed to actually hate this movie because...
Obviously.
I could do that too.
I could just scream at people. It's like, people just don't get it.
Yeah, first of all, if the only scene you're talking about in a 2.5-hour movie is
the emotional climax,
then it sounds like you don't know what to pick out in the movie.
Exactly. Because that was just like literally the amalgamation of stress and him not knowing if she was purposely trying to do things to screw him over and her just trying to do...
Sorry.
You go.
It's been a real shame to see such a great scene get just blasted all over Twitter when, as you've been mentioning, Amanda, it's this beautiful culmination of everything you watched in this 2-hour movie.
Yes. It's like, you got to realize, like, this is a custody battle happening across the United States, like literally New York to LA, and this fight, and not knowing, like, I thought we had everything figured out. Is she trying to screw me over? Is this just her lawyer talking?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's happening. It's just such... Oh my God, it
got really weird
good.
when people got to these, like, oh, what he's saying doesn't even make sense. I was like, well, yeah, you just admitted you haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, you haven't seen the movies.
What is this, The New Yorker, when they're like, Endgame makes no sense. Sir, there's 17 films you need to see beforehand.
Yeah, actually,
You know?
exactly.
All you just watch the hour 49 that leads into the scene.
So
I would even argue the hour 49 leading up to the scene is better than the scene. I know that's the climax, but it's like, oh, okay, we're here, cool. Did y'all see that part when they close the door on you?
Yes, just like little things like that.
That part
Shouts
where...
to Karsten's video.
Oh, bro, I even said this. Karsten, Runquist made a video about the editing. I'm going to say it right here. It's the best video this man's made on his channel.
Yeah.
I was even going to comment that on his thing.
No,
I was like, bro,
amazing.
you made a really good video for this.
He loves him, though. He loves
Dude, the point where he's leaving and she goes, what's his name? Charlie?
Yeah, Charlie.
And she turns around. Charlie's a kid?
No. Charlie's him, yeah.
Charlie turns around thinking he's going to say something, and he's like, you forgot the papers.
Yeah, exactly. Because he's clearly planning to stay on the couch. And she's like, so where are you staying? And then he's just like, oh, well, I guess I'll find a hotel. And she's like, okay, cool. And then he grabs his bag, and there's that like slight moment of hope. And she's
the
just
little
like,
intricacies, yeah.
You forgot the
Noah
papers.
Baumbach, through all of his films, is such a keen observer of small human details.
Yes.
Just the little changes in flow of conversation, the little hesitations that you throw when you're not sure what the reaction is going to be to what you're saying. And this film is so meticulously observed, the way that the script kind of builds not only to that climax but to another scene that we mentioned a lot in our Let Us Explain of Marriage Story, the courtroom scene. When Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson are largely silent throughout that entire scene, but you see all the consequences of their small interactions coming back to haunt them in ways that just feel unfair. And another thing that's made this whole like idea of like who really wins, it's kind of neither of them. Like I've seen people commenting like, oh, this is what happens to a good man. It's like, no, this is what happens in a bad situation.
I feel like if you walk away from Marriage Story thinking that either one of them was supposed to be the bad guy, you didn't watch Marriage Story. You didn't actually get it, because obviously we're largely seeing it from Driver's perspective for most of the movie, because that's definitely the reflection of Noah himself. But you do still get a lot from Nicole's perspective. But it really is just one of these things where both of them are just trying to do what's best for them and what's best for their kids. And you get the like, well, I made so many sacrifices my entire life for you, and now it's my time to have a career. Now it's your turn to make a sacrifice, And
it's a Rorschach of a movie. Hearing people talk about it afterwards.
It really is.
I've heard people go, it's like, dude, he was so in the wrong. Nicole was in the right. I was like, what?
They both have
And then someone
moments.
else goes, Nicole was a hoe. What are you talking about? I was like, what? He's the one who cheated. It's this crazy conversation of everyone having these things.
Yeah.
And then you realize by the end of it, I'm not a person who's tries to be too elitist on like, oh, no, you see, this is why it should have been a limited release. So we keep people from these bad opinions when it's too public.
No.
I hate that. I really do hate that. I will take it being accessible and available as opposed to the bad opinions. But there came a point when people were complaining about Adam Driver's punch being fake. They're like, you could tell he's
weird.
weak. He just pretends.
Trying to criticize how a Marine punches?
He's a Marine, sir.
He's a Marine. This man went to war.
One of the best movies of the decade. In my personal opinion, is one of the best movies of the decade. Again, every time I watch it, I pick something else out that I realize that's
it pays
not
off
a
later.
consequence. Yeah, it's something that happens off later. And it's not even like us. Man, you don't have the item in your boat? I wonder if that'll be coming into use later. No, this is like, oh no, don't use that toy. And then later on, he just walks with the toy. They don't show you the toy. He's just randomly using the toy. And you have to be paying attention to those little things.
Absolutely.
Those little details.
Little things.
It's a beautifully crafted movie, from the acting, the directing, the script, the editing. The only complaint I have is the music, because it sounds a little too much like Toy Story 4, considering it is Randy.
Yeah, the ending song, I was kind of like, this could have had better music.
Yeah, so...
I know... I know people have complained about that,
It
but
works for
like
you?
Randy Newman is
for
a
you?
treasure outside of Toy Story.
Oh, yeah,
know.
absolutely.
And that score is so beautiful. I was
is.
listening to it on Spotify the other day. I'm hoping that gets nominated.
I think it was
It's
just
a
the
beautiful score.
last song when it kind of goes to end. I was like, I feel like something.
It is. It's
Those
a
are the Toy
little
Story
too
strings.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's got the Toy
Something-
Story strings the same way Mandalorian has, because it has the Creed trumpets, because it's what's his name again? But
Luca.
yes,
Or Ludwig.
Ludwig. Yeah, it sounds very similar. Again, I love both, and I do love the score for Marriage Story. That was the only thing that caught me a little off guard, but everything in it, it's great. It's
so
great.
good. I love it.
All right, so Marriage Story, number 4
3.
on Amanda's
And
list. Number
4
4
on
on Arturo's list. Number 2 on my list.
Oh yeah, there you go.
What you got at 3?
But number 3, I got The Farewell.
Nice. Still love that movie.
Yeah, just a beautiful movie from Lulu Wang that we saw way back at Sundance. The story of a family struggling to decide what to do when they get the news that their grandmother is sick and dying, but they have this interesting situation where Chinese families apparently don't always tell the relative that they're dying in order to help keep them positive or happy.
If they don't think there's
And you
anything
get-
they can do, they just don't bother telling them.
Why ruin it? Yeah.
And you get into this really interesting, like, sitcom-ish type of situation where they're coming together in China for a fake wedding in order to say goodbye to their grandmother, and just all the different elements in play, all the ways that they're balancing trying to keep her in the dark, but talk to her and say their goodbyes and deal with the situation of deciding, well, what do we value? Do we value these Eastern traditions, or do we value more modern Western ideas?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just, it's one of those movies where I'm very engaged with it on kind of like a moral and philosophical debate kind of level.
Absolutely.
So I loved living in that world, but it's also just got these really effective performances. Awkwafina giving an unreal dramatic performance in the lead.
Yep.
There's been a lot of love for Zhao Zhuzhen, who might end up getting
Might end up
a
getting
Best
it.
Supporting Actress
That's amazing.
Nomination at the Oscars. But I personally think that the woman who plays Awkwafina's mother, who I'm not going to be able to pronounce her name right now, but I thought her performance was unreal in the movie, and I'm surprised she's not getting a little more love.
She has a beautiful scene. The scene where
does.
she's just like, y'all don't realize that I'm also hurting too.
Yeah.
Y'all
Yeah.
don't realize that I also moved from China.
Yeah.
Like, do you understand? I'm also going through what you're going through, and I have to also deal with your pain of going through it as well. And I was like, bro, what?
Oh my
The second time I saw it and that hit me, I was like, bro,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Whoa,
I know.
what's going on?
And that ending is really effective and beautiful
Yes.
to me. So
Yeah.
I just felt I felt very moved. I felt very emotional. I really, really was in love with this movie, both when I first saw it and when I saw it on the rewatch.
Even made Barack's top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
top list.
it's a great movie.
It's good.
It's
It's a great movie.
It's so good. It recently
want-
moved out of my top 10.
I want to mention a little anecdote that came from the podcast, This American Life, which you originally told the story.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
you were talking about how you really like the philosophical side of it. The way that she actually ends the podcast is by telling the story about a horseshoe, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. Someone goes in and is like, oh, why do you have the horseshoe? He's like, are you superstitious? He's like, no, but just in case.
Right.
Just in case. I love that. That's so good.
All right, so I got The Farewell at number 3. Amanda,
This should be
what made your number
no
3?
surprise to people that come from my channel. Honey Boy. I loved Honey Boy. They hooked me up with a limited edition shirt.
I heard.
I bought
Dude,
one of the
Almost going
separate shirts in a
crazy.
different color. I
Fire.
loved Honey Boy. Honey Boy is this very interesting thing in that it is both a loose biopic on Shia LaBeouf's actual life. A lot of, basically all the things that happen in it are the hits of Shia's life. It doesn't say that it's Even Stevens, but it's Even Stevens. It doesn't say it's opening with Transformers, but it's 100%
No.
Transformers. I did a video on him in general, and there's a moment where so it's Lucas Hedges that plays the older version of him, and when he's getting arrested, it parallels Shia's actual arrest tape. And I have that parallel to my video, and it's back to back. It's just so well done in that sense. And then So it's basically just this entire story of like the abuse that Shia essentially experienced as a child because of his alcoholic father, who was his main caregiver. And in the movie, he plays his father against all recommendation of care. This man had just gotten out of rehab, and that's when he wrote this. He wrote this kind of as like a therapy thing for himself and turned it into a screenplay and sent it off to the director, Alma Harrell. And even though she had never done a narrative film before, and there was a really funny anecdote in the theater when they were like, well, how did he contact you? It's like, he just emailed it to me. And then I answered, like, how do I know you're actually who you say you are? And he was just like, my favorite color is purple. As if that somehow proved.
Yeah, she said that at every single interview,
Yeah, and it's so good. So, he was like, I was just all set to just send it off and let someone else direct it, and I was going to join the Peace Corps. I thought my acting career was done, and I was ready just to walk away from everything. She's the one who said she wouldn't do it, not only if I did not act in the movie, but if I did not play my own father in the movie. And my entire care team was like, you just got out of rehab and like court-appointed therapy and all this stuff, like this could really set you back. And what it ended up being turned into this just beautiful therapy session for him, which is now being resoundingly seen as therapy for the children of alcoholics everywhere. As people who have dealt with parents who have been addicted or parents who have been abusive or neglectful are just resonating so heavily with this movie, because it really exemplifies the fact that like they're your parent, you still love them no matter what they do to you, no matter how bad certain things get, you're always going to love them. And that kind of comes to this moment, almost comes to a head later on in a therapy session in the movie where, you know, Lucas Hedges is just kind of like, the only thing of value my father ever gave me was pain, and now you want to take that away from me. And it's just a good lesson in like, if you harbor onto that pain, like pain can be a learning tool, you can make beautiful things from it, but if you hold onto it that long, it's going to destroy you. And that's kind of what it turned into, is that pain from his childhood ultimately resulted in Shia turning to alcohol, becoming an alcoholic, just progressively getting worse and worse in life and learning to have to walk away and let go of that. And I love it. I know that it didn't hit everybody the same way, but I cannot say enough good things about Honey Boy.
Can you believe?
Yeah, deeply affecting movie, and a metatextual mind fuck of a movie too. Just when you go into the layers of Shia playing his own father.
Oh, it's crazy.
I will say this: without Alma and also
Noah Jupe, or wait.
Very underappreciated.
Yeah, Noah Jupe did such a good job.
He did an insane job in the movie.
Yes, there's that one line before you go. Just
go for it.
How the dad says something. It's like, you know, how does it feel to know that? Like, how do you think it feels to know that my son's paying me and that my son's? And he's like, you wouldn't be here if I wasn't paying you. And knowing that when you're like 8 years old, that's gonna screw you up forever. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for Alma coming in to touch the script up, and I highly recommend seeing her acceptance speech when she won at Sundance. I highly recommend just following her on Twitter. I highly recommend seeing her tweet saying, Adam Tickets has a buy one, get one, so there is no excuse for you lazy asses to not go out.
I love it. She's so funny.
Alma sending out t-shirts and merch, telling people, if you're going to be there at that screening, I will send something to that theater for you to see it.
Yeah.
Alma's entire... all of her tweets the day the Golden Globe nominations came out. The fact that without her, you don't get the
because she was one who she pitched the non-linear narrative.
Exactly. If you just have him venting, this can be a very overstuffed movie.
Yep.
But you have Alma touch it up. You have one of the best movies of the year, in my opinion. And there's an extra thing I just want to mention, because I also love the movie as well. Mm-hmm. There's a point in the movie where he says, my dad would even steal other people's AA stories.
Yeah.
He was always just plagiarizing.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, like, he really hated the fact that his dad was always plagiarizing. It makes me think of the stint he pulled, one of his most famous ones, when he got caught for plagiarism, and why he took it so much to heart, because he saw himself as his father.
Exactly.
And he wore the paper bag saying, I'm not famous anymore. It just, it elevates. It elevates.
It elevates
you follow
everything.
Him, it elevates it to a whole nother level. But even if you're not, like you said, then you can go in this and see that narrative. And the way that it's done may reach your subconscious, because I think it's a great story. Also, FKA Twigs is in it.
Yeah. And she was thrown in very last minute, too. They said that and she became a much bigger role in the movie than originally.
And I think she definitely helps it out. So yeah,
absolutely.
Great choice. I'm so glad it was higher on your list so we could talk about it.
Oh, I love it.
Mine was Uncut. So we did that.
Yep.
We're down to the top 2.
Down to top 2.
All right. So my number 2, as we mentioned, was Marriage Story. Amanda, what was your number 2?
Parasite.
Here we go.
My top 2 keeps flipping around. Parasite. One of my most anticipated movies going into the festival. It had started getting a lot of notoriety. It had been picking up a lot of buzz. Bong Joon-ho had made plenty of fantastic films before this. I was excited to see him going back to Korean films over his North American stints that he had been doing. And this is basic. I feel like this is everything that Us wanted to be, but then couldn't quite portray to the masses. So a lot of people just, Us is very subjective, but Parasite is very literal while still having so many different layers of subtext with the characters and just even the title Parasite. When you think you got it the first time, it keeps going deeper and deeper with the concept. And oh my God, I can't wait to see it again. It's one of these things that obviously it didn't play anywhere near me because I live in a little town. So I was so happy that I caught it. But it has so many different layers, so many different genres. Like I think like at least 5, I would say, clear, distinct styles. But then it doesn't come across as conflicted or clash. It just seems like real life, Yeah, love
Perfect.
it. Yeah,
I obviously have it a little higher.
yeah.
Great film that I'm sure we're going to talk about a little bit more in a second.
Yeah.
But there's another movie that we need to talk about. Art, your number 2.
Which maybe somebody else's number 1.
Probably.
Portrait of a Lady on Fire. But we have been having this discussion for
It's
the
been
longest
going
time.
back and forth.
It's been going back and forth between Parasite and Portrait. Nonetheless, all 4 of these aren't just the best of the year for me. These touch best of the decade. It proves how great 2019 was as a year.
So good.
And Alina as well. She's got Portrait at 1.
Yeah.
Parasite at 2. I got Parasite at 1. Portrait at 2. I don't know how it goes for...
They keep going back and forth.
I think I know which one you have at 1, Zach. But I know Amanda and I have been... Alina keeps saying, I'm going to come around to Portrait being number 1. Yeah. Right now it stays this way. But these are the top 2 movies of the year.
Yep.
For me, it's Portrait. Let's talk about it. Is it your number 1?
It's my number 1. Absolutely.
Let's talk about it. I want you to introduce it.
Okay. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which we've already done an entire episode on this channel, so you should definitely watch that if you have not already. It's like if you talk about the concept, it could so easily just be this boring, stuffy, forgettable movie that people are only going to watch. It's like, oh, there's lesbians in it.
If I may, I always say, what do you recommend? Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And I always get, it's not my kind of movie. And I always just think,
how do you know?
Aren't your kind of movies?
Good movies?
Masterpieces aren't your kind of... That's not up your alley?
It's just, there's so many things in this movie. So it essentially starts with, the central character is being boated to this island so that she has a secret task that she needs to paint a portrait of this woman who is being sent off to be married, and this is going to be the wedding gift. So they've had other painters around before. She doesn't like sitting for them because she doesn't want the marriage to happen. So they bring this new person in who's just supposed to be to her is just supposed to be somebody who's going to walk around with her while she's secretly taking notes so she can do a painting. And it just becomes this like very intimate, closed situation where the two are learning these little things about each other, and where one of them thinks they have the upper hand, and then immediately everything just gets thrown on the table where it's like, no, I've been watching you just as much as you've been watching me. So don't think that you're so smart. And it's just, it's so good. And there's so many nice shots. Like I always think to the one where she walks down Marianne and Eloise.
Eloise, yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
Eloise. So Eloise would be the one that she's supposed to be painting. So Marianne walks down the stairs and you see Eloise with the full cloak up. And for a minute I was like, are they going to hide her for like the entire movie or something?
Lena was like, dude, we're never going to see her face.
I know, I was like that.
Sure?
But no, so they get outside and then suddenly she just starts running for the cliffs. So Marianne just starts running after her, and then suddenly like the hood falls back and then she just turns around, and it's like you manage to make the audience feel like they've been punched in the guts by this face at the same way that Marianne feels like she's just been hit by these piercing blue eyes and just being so afraid that she was going to pitch herself off the cliffs. Oh my God, it's so good. There's so much about this movie that I love. You could just dismiss it as a simple romance, but it's just so much more. There's great philosophical debates of these old Greek tragedies that go on, and it really just represents the entire movie. and just how you can interpret different endings based on this story that they're reading about the midway point of the movie, that actually you can just say that actually just paints what the future becomes for them.
Yeah, forgive the pun, but this is a really painterly movie in its colors and its composition of these frames. Just I have seared in my mind all these shots of them overlooking the shore, kinds of shots that put Big Little Lies to shame.
Yeah.
You know, we brought it up on the Let Us Explain, but there's a really beautiful moment in which you see Marion's head and it pulls back a little, and you see
Eloise.
You see Eloise there as well, in a way that, you know, lets you draw the connection between them, because even though there are so many things that are separate about them and so many things that they have to reveal to one another over the course of the film, ultimately they do have this connection that they aren't able to find with other people, and that kind of spurs on this momentum. It was something that we talked about in our Let Us Explain as well, is just how beautiful and affecting this film's ending is. Just a couple knockout scenes after knockout scenes.
Yeah, like which ending?
Exactly.
Oh my
When I first came out, the first thing I said was like, yo, this thing has 3 endings, one of which I had him going 1, 2, 3 in that order because of the parable.
Yeah.
Then someone pitches to me, is like, yo, I know you like the first one because of the parable and what she does, but if that's what she did, wouldn't the other person who gets the 3rd ending do it differently?
I think the same person
we
hit me
have
up.
to mention it. Yes, we have to mention this later. This is an after show one that I need to talk about.
Because I think
guys.
the same person hit me up too, and I was like, shit, you right?
On Instagram?
Twitter, but because I opened up my Twitter so that Alma Harrell could answer me. I opened
At
up
a
my
certain
Twitter.
point, I'm looking at this and I was like, whoa. And it made me rethink again a movie that I already love, just getting even better.
more.
Zach, you mentioned that one shot. I'm gonna mention the shot kind of near the cliffs where it's just the establishing shot. No one's in there, but there's like lumps. They stand up because they were looking for something. It's like they were there the entire time. There's all these beautiful scenes that you see.
It's gorgeous.
And it's crazy because it's actually 3 characters. I would include the maid as a part of one of the characters because she has an entire subplot.
She does.
That was.
It leads to the title. It leads to what becomes the title of the movie. Is the only reason why, is her.
All the scenes with the actually painting the portrait, unpainting the portraits, the actual inspiration shot. As Alina has mentioned, the entire story really is, as you see at the beginning, her telling the story of this venture and how she got to that painting to her students. I have been calling Marianne, Rick Ross.
Yeah.
She one of the opening shots is her. Isn't that her painting naked in front of her own fireplace like a boss?
Yeah.
Like that's the coolest thing about this movie. And Celine Sciamma, who keeps saying, I can't remember if she did the cinematography, but I know she did the costumes, wrote it, obviously directed it.
Yeah.
Is out there. She had said, I'm not going to whore myself out for the Oscars.
Yeah.
She didn't. Hey, another movie. Shout out to France's Les Miserables. Really appreciate that movie. There's a bunch of other ones I know that we can mention. It wasn't the best from France.
Sorry.
That's because Celine's like, nah, I got a movie and it's special to me. Criterion? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I would much rather have it be on the Criterion than having to play these awards stuff over there. And I absolutely love the endings. There is a scene. I don't know what theater you saw it at TIFF.
I saw it at the Bell. So I was in like the acoustic closed in room.
I can't even imagine it. The
amazing.
Bell, the TIFF light bell. If I'm saying it right.
TIFF Bell light box.
Bell box. Well, however it is, yeah.
TIFF Bell light box.
Y'all know what we're talking about. It has some of the best Dolby surround sound. I saw Roma there. It is ridiculous.
Incredible.
How was this? I saw it at the Winter Garden. How was the scene when they sang the music?
It was crazy. Outside? It just encompasses everything.
I thought you had a live orchestra.
I know, and that's what it felt like because it's so insane. And that theater definitely amplified it. I saw a couple of other movies there, but I was like, yes, I can tell that this is like.
She comes out and goes, wow. Like, I know it sounded good, but I didn't know it was going to sound great. She was even talking about that scene.
That's amazing.
Absolutely love this movie. It's going to be coming out in February for Valentine's Day. And it's even going to have a whole Criterion thing with it. And if you don't know, they do a great job with their, Barnes & Noble always has those half-prof sales. I highly recommend it. But even more than that, if, maybe you don't collect, whatever not, you're more into streaming, Criterion also has a channel. Highly recommend pushing it. I'm subscribed to it as well. And anytime they get a Criterion movie, it also goes to their streaming service as well. So
That's
you
awesome.
will be able to see Portrait of a Lady on Fire streaming next year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty dope as well. Highly recommend that movie.
Yeah.
Zach, can we talk about our number ones?
Can we talk about Parasite?
Guys, it's so metaphorical. Parasite. What a movie. Amanda, you already said some stuff, but Bong Joon-ho, just an absolute master. You know, I think it's pretty rare that you get a filmmaker who's already so well known for so many movies, and then he gives you what pretty much, I don't want to say unanimously, but it seems like the majority of people are saying this is kind of his masterpiece.
I would agree.
No?
I would say that this is it.
It's just such a well conceived film. From its plotting, which is so intricately plotted, where every single moment feels important and it keeps you on the edge of your seat guessing throughout. But it's also the thematic elements to it, the way in which he uses going up the hill, down the hill, up the stairs, down the stairs, who lives upstairs, who's downstairs. Amanda, you mentioned the title. Who you think the parasite in this movie? Again, another great Rorschach
it just
test.
goes over and over, but there's so many options, and like, because that's the thing, you get earlier on, like I had notes and I was like, oh, okay, so that's what this is, and it's like 20 minutes later and I'm like, oh, okay, and then it just keeps
not
going,
what that is. Yeah.
going and going. Oh, I love it so much. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned this before, but I go to the movies for that feeling that I get when the movie really just reveals something unexpected halfway through, because Bong Joon-ho, in his mastery of telling the story, he's always keeping things kind of hidden from the viewer, but not completely hidden. They're not out of plain sight.
Yes.
It's not,
and when you watch it again, you see all those little clues there that prepared you for this.
It's not some cheap setup.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think also worth mentioning is just how enjoyable it is to watch this movie.
And rewatch.
It's funny. It's got a pace to it. Seeing the kind of heist nature to this expedition from the poorer family is just really fun to see how they assume their new positions.
Yep.
I was so completely captivated by what was going on and blown away, just not only in entertainment quality, but in the metaphorical aspects of it. It's such a thoughtful film.
Yeah, I agree.
I just want to mention, I don't know if you had another statement in. Atlantics. It's a great international feature. You could catch that on Netflix.
Yeah.
We had mentioned First Love. We really liked that.
I love First Love.
Some of the other movies, Zach, you had mentioned Ashes Purest White.
I haven't seen that one, but I know a lot of people really like that.
I think it's a very good movie. Just recently was able to catch that, and because I was just mentioning the Criterion Channel. The other one you had mentioned, an elephant sitting.
Standing Still, yeah.
Bro, I was in the middle of watching that movie. No one told me it was 3.5 hours long. Again, another movie where the director passed right before the production of that movie. One of the big reasons was an argument that he had with the producers. Another really good movie. I mentioned all of
He killed himself after the filming of that.
Shit.
Suicide, yes. There's a crazy story going with that, especially because the movie itself contains 2 suicides. And a lot of people have seen it as a letter. There's a lot that can go into that. But a lot of other films out there. We had mentioned, Pain and Glory is another one.
Yeah, Pain and
Glory. That definitely
Glory
needs to be mentioned.
Very good.
Les Miserables we had mentioned. I also had Corpus Christi, which was another really good one. A bunch of really great foreign films. So many great foreign films. I have heard the biggest discussion. I had said this when I first saw Parasite, and I said this is easy best of the decade.
Yeah.
It's tied with Whiplash. I kept saying it was like a had and Whiplash. Love them both equally. But and I had said it's going to become a cliche. What's the new thing? Oh, of course, people saw Parasite. But what about the other Korean films? Honey, baby. I've been there too. I have scouted all these films out.
Yeah?
Nah. You will always get people going, oh, do you watch any other ones? Recommend them. Recommend a movie better than Parasite. Y'all know.
Yeah.
Y'all know. Yeah, they never do.
No.
So I know that...
This is still coming from South Korea that has never been nominated for Best Foreign Language at the Oscars. It's absurd, but still.
It's insane. But what I'm saying there is that this is a movie that really lives up to the hype and was bound to be a cliche. It's so good, it's bound to be hated.
Yeah, I'm noticing a little bit of that.
Right?
Yeah.
It's starting to become that backlash type of thing, and it's like, but no one's really giving a reason for it.
No. I think it's more just like, I don't like it as much as you seem to think I should like it, so that means
like
I hate it.
I was like,
Okay.
I'll be here in 10 years when you want to discuss it
good
again.
for you.
It doesn't have to be your favorite, but there's so much that this movie does right, as you said.
Yes.
That idea of it being the version of Us.
Yeah.
That you didn't need to go down below, you needed to go overseas to get the right interpretation of.
Yeah.
Or just not even. I don't want to say the right interpretation.
No,
but
just
one where the story isn't telling you that it should be people coming together in a movie where they're all killing each other.
Yeah, like...
And instead it's a movie about,
Yeah.
titled Parasite, and how people use each other and this whole infrastructure of them fighting for who's above.
Yeah.
I have a more optimistic message within there that I would like to say Bong Joon-ho's doing. A lot of people disagree with me. But I truly stands as one of the best of the decades from a filmmaker, as you put it perfectly, Amanda. It doesn't feel like a puzzle piece or an amalgamation of things. It feels like 5 different genres.
Yeah. But
in
they
one
work.
perfectly cohesive movie.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And the way that movie constantly it just verges on the edge of horror without ever really
being horror,
getting there is another sort of mastery of tone that Bong is able to add to the film.
And all of Bong's press, perfect.
Oh, it was so good. Yeah, I was really happy that I got a Q&A with him for the showing that I saw. Like, it was just...
Lucky.
It's just nice. It's just so nice.
Given that this is the end of the decade, I've been going back and trying to assemble what are my favorite movies from each of the past years of the last decade in order to look at what is my favorite film of the decade. And, there are some great foreign films, but this is the only year that I found where a foreign film topped my best of the year list.
Agreed. 2 foreign films for me.
I try to be a global consumer, and I like to see films from foreign directors. But I think it says something about how special this movie is that it has been able to translate. And there is that thing that's been going around on Twitter about Bong reacting to why he feels like the film has had such a great global response, and that it's a film about capitalism, not just a film about people.
Yeah.
And I think it's spot on. The ways in which we interpret it is through the financial view that the film brings,
which is
to the
always
table.
so annoying.
Something we can all relate to.
Yeah, but it's beautiful. It's been the year, like you said, of the 1% versus the poor. Yeah, Joker had the stairs, so did these guys.
Yeah.
Hey, you like the ending of Knives Out? Recommend Parasite. There's all of these movies that have been out there about the clashing between classes. If 2019 was the year of those themes, from Us to this one ended it perfectly. It wrapped it up. It is the epitome. It is a masterpiece in my opinion. It does everything right. And we will remember this movie for years to come, like we remember that poster for Citizen Kane, for 12 Angry Men, The Wizard of Oz. This is a movie 100 years from now we're still going to be talking about for sure.
I agree.
And if we're not, I won't be here, so it don't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I think that just about wraps up our best movies of 2019 list. Let us know what your favorite movies were in the comments down below. Be an inner cutie and shoot us a message or send us an email, intercutpod@gmail.com. You can also check out more by following us on social media at intercutpod. You can check more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevich. That's at ZSHEV, as in V Ferrari, ICH. And check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/multiplex show. Amanda, where can people find more from you?
You can find me on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, everywhere is at Amanda the Jedi. Nice and simple.
Easy enough. Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me at The A to Z Show, or Let Me Explain on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Letterboxd. Gonna try to actually keep up to date with that one. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
2020 goals.
Yeah. But I'm excited. It's been a blast talking with you guys. Amanda, always a damn honor to have you on.
Thank you.
I'm excited to go to Sundance with you guys.
Yes.
I'm excited to see some of the intra cuties over there. I know some people have been able to get the chance to go. They've been saving up since 2 years ago. Some people are going as volunteering. I'm very excited. And as always, this list, I'm sure we're still going to get it anyway. We recently just got accused of having spoilers in a video that says the word explain in the title, but things happen. Know that always go into these best of lists and the upcoming best of the decade list that we're doing as why do you want us list to correspond as yours? No. If there's a movie that you haven't seen, and if you're watching all this list and you see a movie that keeps popping up, use the list for that. Your list will always be more important than our list for you, of course. But if anything, we hope that watching Intercut throughout the year and watching this list here has given you some movies to appreciate, and hopefully a movie that ended up on your must-watch list.
Absolutely. Hopefully you've taken the ride with us through 2019 all the way from Sundance to now. And hopefully you'll take that ride with us again in 2020. We'll be at Sundance soon. We're going to be recommending a bunch of great movies for you as well. It'll be exciting to see which of those movies we catch in the snowy mountains of Utah make it all the way to the best of 2020 list.
The next journey. And the beginning of a new decade, dude. Oh.
Yeah. Crazy. All right, so listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast. Then make sure you subscribe not just to the audio feed, but to the video feed as well on youtube.com/intercutpod, where you can catch our bright, smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Friday, and please leave us a comment, like the videos, consider heading over to iTunes to give us a 5-star review. Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. All of them are at IntercutPod to get updates throughout the week from Art, from Amanda, from me, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, a top 10 list can have 11 movies on it.
True.